Hey guys, Kyle from You Would Think here. We're doing a little bit of a post-game show. This is going to be exclusive to our YouTube channel. Make sure to follow us on YouTube. And make sure to follow us on Twitter at YWT Podcast. While you're here, don't forget to follow Kevin at Kevin_Durso. Our stuff can be found everywhere. The podcast comes out every other Sunday. But listen, we're pretty excited here. It's just me today. So I keep saying we, and I just mean me. Pretty excited in my house. The group text has been pretty lit up too. The boys have been very excited. The Philadelphia Flyers have defeated the Pittsburgh Penguins in the season opener 6-3. Lots of big goals. Huge game from Joel Farabee. We're going to be talking about that as we move along here. It's just really exciting. And the boys showed up, right? We were speculating all offseason what team would show up. Would they be able to recapture some of the magic that we saw kind of towards the end of last season? Would we see the team that we got in the bubble, which might have been a little more flat? Turns out we got much closer to the team from last offseason. The team looked really good. The second line, we're going to talk about them. Kevin Hayes, big day. Joel Farabee, big day. Claude Giroux, big day. There's really a lot to talk about. I think we should kick it off with Nolan Patrick. Nolan Patrick came back, and we've talked about him ad nauseum on the show, and he looked really good. And I think it's safe to say that we should, for the most part, put the concerns with Nolan Patrick to bed. He's healthy. He's skating well. He scored a goal tonight. An absolute beauty. Bit of a tip play in front of the net. Not even sure if he really saw it, honestly. But he got credit for the goal. He looked good. He was buzzing all night. He was around the net. He was around the puck. He was driving play. In my eyes, Nolan Patrick looked like the ideal 3C. And while we're talking about depth centers, I do also want to mention Scott Laughton. Scott Laughton played a fantastic game at 4C. The fourth line drove a goal here, and Michael Raffel ended up putting it in the net, but it was a beautiful play by the whole fourth line. That was the goal that ended up being the game winner, actually. The 4-3 goal was kind of created by that fourth line. And the whole team, it was everything, right? You got the depth scoring, you got Raffel, you got that fourth line. But a lot of your scoring came from your top six. Nolan Patrick, again, we talked about him on the third line, but the second line, Joel Farabee had one, Konechny had one on the first line, Hayes had one on the second line. It was spread throughout the lineup. A lot in the top six, but everybody contributed. And talking about the goals that the Flyers scored here, I did want to mention the Pittsburgh Penguin goals. They weren't necessarily the prettiest, right? First goal of the game, Mark Jankowski, just over 5 minutes into the game. It's just a weird play in front of the net, deflects a couple of times, ends up getting past Carter Hart. Not a ton you can do about it, right? Moving along a couple minutes later, or about 10 minutes later, James Van Riem's on the power play. Boom. Eric Gustafsson really looked good on the power play. I know I said this, but we talked on the show about Eric Gustafsson being a power play specialist, and he was going to come in and hopefully play limited minutes, and he did on the third line with Robert Hagg. But on the power play, he drove action, right? The second power play unit, which he was quarterbacking, put a couple in the net, and he was a big part of it, right? He put the shot on net that James Van Riemsdyk tipped home. He put the shot on net that Nolan Patrick ended up getting credit for. Eric Gustafsson absolutely, twice, I thought he scored his first goal as a Flyer, and twice they ended up being deflections, and he ended up not getting credit for either of them. He did get the primary assist on both. He ended up with 2 points on the night. I believe he might have picked up a third somewhere. And you really can't ask for much more out of a guy that you signed for 1 year, $3 million, low risk, potentially high reward. You saw it already. If he brings some stability to the second power play unit, and that second power play unit is going to feature dangerous guys like Nolan Patrick and Joel Farabee and guys who might not necessarily crack the first unit, right? If Oscar Lindblom's not on the first power play unit and he's on the second, the Flyers are going to be dangerous all 2 minutes of a power play. It's a far cry from a couple of years ago when Pierre-Edouard Bellemare was getting 35 seconds of power play time. The team is deep. The second power play unit was more dangerous than the first tonight, and the first looked okay. But the second unit was far more dangerous tonight. And overall, I think there's a lot to build on. And obviously there's a couple little flubs to address, right? Carter Hart tries to fling the puck out from behind the net. Sidney Crosby bats it down, chips it home. Sometimes the second or third best player in the world is going to do something like that. That being said, Carter Hart held onto the puck too long, and we've seen him get himself in trouble with it once or twice, and it bit him here. Thankfully, it didn't really cost the Flyers in the end, but it is something that has come up on occasion with Carter Hart. We saw it here tonight. That was early in the second period, and that actually tied the game at 2. And that could have been a momentum shift. And from then on out, Carter Hart played really well. Brandon Tanev ended up tipping one by him in the third, and there really wasn't a ton Carter Hart could have done about it. But after the misplay with Sidney Crosby, Carter Hart really buckled down and played well the rest of the night. Shortly after that, again, just as we move along, I'm just looking here. The Travis Konechny goals and the Kevin Hayes goals were 20 seconds apart. And the end of the game here, right, the Penguins tie it up with the Crosby goal, 2-2. Joel Farabee makes it 3-2. Brandon Tanev makes it 3-3 early in the third. Anything can happen, right? It's a good Pittsburgh Penguins team. Sidney Crosby's got that thing where he can just snap his fingers and decide he's ready to win a hockey game. And instead, the Flyers showed up, and they showed up with the depth. And the fourth line came through. Michael Raffl scored his first of the season from Lawton and Obey-Kubel as it currently sits. You can't ask for much more. This was a complete team effort. So that comes, and you just get your game winner right there, Michael Raffl. And then later on, the Penguins start kind of looking like they're ready to make a run, and the Flyers just absolutely shut it down with 2 goals in 20 seconds. And it comes from your top 6. Travis Konechny from Lindblom and Couturier. There's your first line. And then Kevin Hayes from Farabee and Giroux. There's your second line. And when the game's on the line and you need someone to clutch it out, your leadership came through and your top 6 came through. And I know it's one game, but I think there's a lot to be excited about with this team. And I can't think of a lot to complain about. And I like finding things to complain about because it's way more interesting that way. But if there's nothing to complain about, I can't really make stuff up, right? Again, the little things, obviously you see some rust. It's the first game of the season. Wasn't really much of a preseason. You saw some loose calls. Again, kind of to be expected early on. The refs are going to try to set a precedent. They always do. But other than that, I'm pretty happy with this hockey team, and I really, really am genuinely excited to see how they turn it around and play Pittsburgh again on Friday evening. And until then, I'm going to let you guys go. Thank you guys for checking this video out. Send it to your friends. Like, share, subscribe, etc., etc. Check out the podcast at YWT Podcast on Twitter. It can be found on sportstalkphilly.com, and that's kind of it. And I'll be here Friday night talking about the game again. So if you guys want to check that out, come back then. And here we go. We're along for the ride. 1 down, 56 to go. See ya.